When you start talking that I want to make fast money, the only way you can make fast money is if you're doing drugs, my friend. There is no fast money in trading. There is consistent money. Now, these 10 ticks don't have to be taken at once. There is a certain cycle. For example, for the S&P 500, there is a rotational cycle of around 2.5 points. So the market would go up 10 ticks, or it could go down around 10, 12 ticks, and then it comes back. So it rotates around that. Wherever it goes, it keeps on rotating that way. I want to capture around 50% of it. So if I can capture 50% of the rotation, I'm happy, because now I know I need 2 rotations to get my 10 ticks, get my $120, and thank you very much, goodbye. Now this is when you are trading one contract. When you make money and you are trading 2 contracts, now your tick value is no longer $12.50, but it is $25, because now you have 2 contracts. So now you can just make your 5 ticks and you are trading 40, 50, 20, whatever number of contracts. How much money are you making? You are still going for 5 ticks. Remember that. You are not going for 10 ticks, you are not going for 20 ticks, you are not going for 100 ticks. You are just going for 5 ticks. You see, we are reducing our exposure to risk. That person crossing the street, I don't know whether you were here when I said that. No, okay, let's start that again. If you trade intelligently, strategically, and with knowledge and wisdom, your chances of success are much higher. And by the way, my students who are learning from me, the success rate is 74%. You can have a system that works 40% of the time, and then you can still make money. It all depends on how you're managing your money and how you're managing. 2 trades, 5, 6 ticks each, you are in and out within less than 2 hours. Now the good thing about this is the following. The hours that you are trading is around 4:30 to 6:30, 7 o'clock Kenya time. I saw your eyes going up when you said in the morning. I'm making breakfast, I'm looking after my kids, I don't have time for this. My husband is asking me to iron my shirt. Good. So, if you work after 4:30, do your trading, your bosses are going to be very happy because they think you're putting in overtime. But you're working for yourselves, right? So at the end of the day, joke aside, it's at the end of the day. Now, remember, there are markets all over the world. There is the Singapore market or the Far East market that opens in the morning. That is morning time for you, right? For those who have that kind of job or luxury where they can go to work at 9 o'clock, they can wake up early in the morning, do an hour or 2 of trading, then go to their work. End of story. My trading, I'm based in Toronto, so I wake up early, but I will not turn on the TV to listen to the news because I don't care about the news. Why? Sorry? No, not that, because I'm not trading in that. I am not reading the news, or I'm not listening to the news for the simple factor that is because it's the order flow that's telling me how the market is doing. The numbers are telling me whether the market is going up or the market is coming down. Do I need the CEO of Safaricom to come and tell me, wearing a $1,000 suit and telling me, hey, Nawaz, today Safaricom is doing extremely well. This quarter we've made billions of shillings, and you should buy into this and you should do that. No, I don't need that. When I read the order flow tells me whether the CEO of Safaricom was right or wrong. Whether he was telling me BS or he was right. And guess what? Most of the time when the CEOs come on TV and they tell you that the stock is doing well, don't get into that stock. Don't. That is my tip. I normally don't get tips. I don't take tips and I don't give tips. But when this thing happens, do your due diligence and study that. Because probabilities are very high that that person has millions of shares that he wants to download to sell it. He wants to say good things about it, so you all scramble and go and buy it, and guess who is selling it to you? He is selling it to you. Most of the time. Okay? So I don't do that. I'll give you an example. There is a stock in Canada, it's called CGC, and it's a stock that is taking a lot of momentum. It's in Kenya, more and more we are thinking about that, and that is weed, okay? For those who smoke, I don't smoke, so it's fine. So weed came in, it was at around $4. And my friend was telling me, yeah, Nawaz, this is a very good stock, it's going to go up. I said, okay, let's wait, let's monitor it. Started monitoring, started looking at the order flow. It's going to $8, it's going to $9. This guy is calling me an idiot. I told you, at $4.50. Look at it, it's at my weed. I said, no. But it's not doing anything. So what happens? Lo and behold, it freezes at around 11 and then it drops back to 7. So now I was feeling good. I'm like, why did you buy it? Now you know why. Anyways, so for about 6 months, I monitor this. And then I said, you know what? I don't want to. Now in Canada, we have one advantage that we have is called a TFSA account, which is tax-free savings account. The government has given us permission to have that kind of account. You can trade some instruments, like you can't trade futures. I can't wait for them to allow us to trade futures in it. We can trade bonds, we can trade stocks, we can trade options, but we can't trade futures. We can even trade forex. The best way to lose your money is put it in forex there and you lose it all. The government takes it away. So the TFSA, basically what it is in a nutshell is that if that account, let's say, goes from $50,000 to $500,000, when you cash in the money, you don't have to pay any taxes. It's tax-free savings account, TFSA. So for me, I love that. And I want to kiss the government for allowing us to do that. Because I'm a trader, I can trade stocks there, and I'm okay. I'm waiting to trade futures there, I'll be okayer, right? And for other friends that I have, I tell them, open up the account. Because you never know when the government is going to decide to say, hey, you know what? A lot of people are making money here, they're not paying taxes, let's chop it off. Let's get them into investing into other mutual funds and stuff where we can get the tax. Because whatever savings account that you have, sadly in Canada, they don't tax you when you put money in. They actually give you a tax break. But when you retire and you're 75 and you start dipping into that money, that's when you start paying taxes. Now it's very sad that you have to pay taxes when you grow old. So that's why they created this, and I'm thankful. Coming back to this calculation, so I say it, just for argument's sake. You're trading 10 contracts, you need $4,000 in your account. With $4,000, if you're making 10 ticks, you are making $1,250. Okay, when you're trading 10 contracts. Less the $450 per contract for 10 contracts, $45. What is your net? $1,200. And this amount, believe it or not, if you trade within a year's time, this can be your daily income. Daily income. I should have put this in bold. No, I'm very serious, I'm not joking. This is food for thought. I want you to try and picture this. When I came here 2 years ago, I was thinking, what is it that I can do to improve Kenyans' lifestyle? Mostly, as I was talking to Florence, mostly you have a lot of women here who are single mothers between the ages, if we look at statistics today, it's between the ages of 18 and 30. That's the majority. Kenya is a very young population. The census is saying that we are 50 million, but I doubt that we are 50. I think we are more than 50. I would take it to 60 million, if not more. If you have the majority, and I think about 40% of Kenyans are within that age bracket, which is a tremendous burden for everyone to make a living. And that's why things happen. Matatus get robbed, people like me get robbed, a lot of other things happen, right? Mm-hmm. So what do? You have to look for means to substantiate that kind of income. This is an example that I'm giving with only 10 contracts. Now, as I said here, imagine you're trading 20 to 50 contracts. I have one guy, every morning I sit there, I'm waiting for this guy to come. Because he has a lucky number. His number is 123. He trades 123 contracts. So when I reach certain areas, I'm expecting for this guy to come in. And some days, I think he's working for a big company, so he has that kind of leverage. And I see him, 123 contracts, he comes in. 1 tick, 2 tick, is out. 123 contracts. 1 tick, 2 tick, is out. And that is how he's making 10 ticks per day. But he's there from morning till evening. I'm there only for 2 hours. So in those 2 hours, I will see him once or twice. But imagine 123 contracts at $12.50 per tick, okay? That's $1,250, round it, it's around $1,500. 2 ticks, that's $3,000. He does that 5 times a day, he's made $10,000. He walks away. All I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of people who are trading, big contracts, and it is possible to trade that in the futures market. So research in motion, the stock, when I came into contact with the stock, it was at around $67, $68. So this friend of mine that I used to work with, he goes, I've been trading this stock, I'm in at 32. Now it's at 67 and he's still hedging out. He's still waiting. I don't know how much he was expecting to make out of it. The stock went, by the way, all the way up to 180 and he did not sell it. He waited for it to come down to 102 and that's when he sold it. Now this guy is giving me advice as to how to trade. So, gullible as I was, and I was a fresh guy who was getting into trading, I bought the stock at 98.50. And I invested everything I had, $98.50, because it was fluctuating at that time between 100 and 120, 110. I bought it at 98.50. Now I had bought that, I had bought Ballard Power, I had bought Caston Chase, I had bought JDS Uniphase. I was highly leveraged into everything and I had maxed out my leverage. I had taken loans from the bank. I maxed out my credit cards. The stupidest things that you can do, I have done with this. So I bought it at 98.50 and I said, you know what? I will sell it at 103.25. So I put my price at 103.25. So I'm basically making $5. So with my calculations, I said, you know what, if this goes through, I'm making $22,000, $23,000. Now this is just in one stock, right? So I was already calculating, okay, I'll be able to pay my mortgage. I'll be able to pay this loan, this loan. I was free, I was paying off all my loans, all my credit cards. And I had about $50,000 would have been left on the table for me to continue trading with that. This guy calls me at night. Hey Al, so did you get into Research in Motion? I'm like, yes. Okay, so how much did you get in it? I said, well, I got in at 98.50. And he goes, and what are you selling it? I said, oh, 103.25. Kumjinga wewe. Ati, did you get the news? This thing is going to 110, I guarantee you. The news are so good. I said, but son, if I would be you, I would change my price. You are leaving too much on the table. You can't do that. These opportunities, they don't come every day. So me, like an idiot, after I hang up, I go and I change the price from 103.25. I said, okay, I don't want to be too greedy. If he's saying 110, I'll clock out before that. So I put it at 108.25. I increased another $5. I go to work. I come back. My account was negative $240,000. What had happened was Research in Motion were actually on the verge of bankruptcy, and we did not know that. The price went to 103.50 and it crashed. So at 103.25, I was spot on. If I would have left it there, no matter what the collapse, I would have been laughing all the way to the bank. Instead, I was in the hole for 240K because it's a domino effect. When you have this, what the bank does, it starts liquidating your positions. So it started liquidating my Research in Motion. So I lost money there. Then it started, and now I'm at work. I have no access to my account. So I have no idea what is happening. I come home to this hammer, which is my positions in Ballard Power were liquidated, Research in Motion were liquidated, Caston Chase were liquidated, JDS Uniphase were liquidated. Everything that I owned had been sold, and I could not repay the bank. I had $240,000 that I owed them. Now you can think of the shock that I got when I had, and whereas I was already calculating that I'll pay off my mortgage and I'll pay off my debts. That took me into depression for 8 months. I could not do a job. I couldn't sit there. I could not just stop thinking. And my friends who were working with me had told me, they said, otherwise, you are playing with fire. But when I took an account of $50,000, $60,000 to around $200,000, I was the king. Nobody could tell me what to do. I knew what I was doing, which was nothing. Basically, I didn't know what I was doing. And one of my friends, Rajiv, he was telling me that, I'm really, something would go wrong and you would be in so much hot water. I said, Rajiv, it can happen. I'm there questions that are making me very uncomfortable. You're new to trading. I said, wachana na wewe, mimi najua kile niko nafanya. I'm fine. Till this thing hit me. Then, of course, I had good friends who told me, oh, if you've done it once, you can do it twice. So now it was time to start working, paying off the debts. In between, I decided to go to Dubai and spend some time with my parents, clear up my mind, then come back. And that's where actually I got exposed to the futures market. So in essence, I've done whatever needs to be done or whatever had to be done for me to learn. Now I don't enter a trade without a stop loss. This is my threshold. Any trade that I will enter, my stop loss has to be there. I have 2 internet lines, and I have a dedicated server for my trading. I will not even open an email on that server. It's dedicated to trading. I don't want any viruses, I don't want anything. I used to show my account live. I stopped doing that when somebody tried to hack into my account. So I'm not doing that anymore either. But, you want to put me through the test? We can do that. It's not a problem. I'm confident in what I do. So that's not an issue. Okay? The whole idea is for you to be able to understand that trading is possible. There are other markets out there. There is a potential. Okay? It's 2 weeks and 2 weeks, which is a total of 1 month.